Knocking at the door on what I knew for sure. Blew up in my face. Woke up on the floor. Couldn't take no more. My darkest day. But I can't lose sleep on what I cannot change. I chased the lightning, I got soaked in the rain. Danced with my demons till I couldn't see straight. Try to twist me, but I still won't break. I don't mind. I'll find a way.
Welcome in to The Bridge with Phil Wallace and Kelly Vance. This is a new show. Well, kind of revamped, re-energized, and with a cool focus. Of course, our good friend Kelly Vance, wife, mother, grandma, realtor, entrepreneur, co-founder of Sunbeams Uganda, making a difference in the world, which is amazing. Is here to help us build bridges. Phil Wallace, father, entrepreneur, coach, author, a mentor, just all around good guy. He will be with us. He was just with us and then he got bounced out. But it is awesome to have you with us, Kelly. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for wanting to be part of this. And your take on things are going to be incredible. And thank you for the sourdough bread.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
A little difference in what we're doing with the bridge rather than the old show is we're talking about building the bridges and trying to look for commonality and what do we do. Today, we're talking about immigration and the here in America, how it is a hot topic right now. So what were your thoughts when you wanted to dive into immigration?
Well, today, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, today is Immigration Day. So it's a perfect day to start off with it. I think that I had a lot of pretenses, a lot of strong opinions about immigration until I got another side of things a little bit. Got to look a little bit at the system and see how broken it was, and then got to deal with some people who are here and trying to get them housing and just seeing there's more sides than just the one that we see our life and our lens through. And so I think that there's a lot of bridge building that can happen.
Yeah. I as I dug into this topic, I kept hearing about it's illegal. Well, actually, this country was founded on, right? Instead of, and what I really wanted to start driving to and focusing on, instead of trying to put a hole, plug the hole in the dam, so to speak, is okay. Now they're here, human beings. What do we do?
Yeah.
And how do we work with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, illegal immigration, illegal, of course, we're not going to sit here and promote things that are illegal. But I think, like you said, there are people that are here. And what do you do with the people that are in your backyard or across the street or your kids are going to school with? And how do we make the world a better place together?
So right now, the hot topic in America is that the southern border.
Yeah. Right.
We've heard for the last however many decades, right? We want to build. Well, we'll keep people out. And when we hear about this situation here in the Americas, we think of people flooding in from Central America or Mexico particularly. And it was interesting to find out that that's not the largest population of immigrants that have come either legally or illegally. And I don't think a lot of people understand the numbers there.
Yeah. Do you have the numbers? What is the largest?
Funny that you would ask, right? So, this is a study from 2017. Okay. Unauthorized immigrants are almost a quarter of the U.S. foreign-born population, right? So lawful immigrants, there's 35.2 million, or 77% of the immigrants that come to America are lawful immigrants.
Okay.
2.2 million people, or 5%, are temporary lawful residents. They maybe have a visa, have a green card, I guess is what we would say here in America, are non-resident aliens, right? And interestingly, this you may know this, but interestingly, of those 2.2 million people, they don't want to become an American citizen. They're okay being here on their visa, going back and having to renew or whatever, but they don't want to be.
Interesting.
Yes, I found it interesting as well. And then, and here he is, our other guy, Phil Wallace. Welcome back, Phil. Hopefully he's there. He'll hear us soon. And just carrying on, unauthorized immigrants, 10.5 million, or 23%, so a little less than a quarter, are unauthorized immigrants, right? So that's a lot of people, you would say.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, but a lot less than what I had anticipated, right? And I think we'll have people out there today. Oh yeah, well, the last couple of years is really, yeah, has it, right? And if I were to ask, we talked about this in the green room. If I were to ask, what is the number one immigrant that's coming to America?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would say Latino or that Central American, right? South American, Central American. It's not. It's Asian and South Asian by large numbers. And that I found that very
you don't see that.
Yeah.
That's not what's promoted out there.
No, it's not what's promoted.
No, right? Not at all. It's a lot of it's very deceiving, I think.
Yeah. And how do you, with that said, it's there, and there are immigrants in every country in the world, right? And not just we're not just special,
right?
But there are freedoms and things that we enjoy that perhaps some others don't. So with that said, how is that, right?
I think that we're obviously we're not the only country with immigrants in it, but I would say that we are probably one of the hardest countries to be able to get here legally.
Yeah.
So other countries is probably not, you don't have to go through some of the things you have to go through to get here, if you can even.
Can you hear us now, Phil? Phil says he can't hear.
Oh, we're missing you.
Yeah. Ah, well, that's the joy of that is the joy of live shows.
Yeah.
And technology. All right. So that people understand where you're coming from. You've been you just got back from Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
You're a co-founder of Sunbeams Uganda. We'll get into that in a minute. But you've experienced that, yes?
Experienced
being a foreigner in
absolutely.
a strange land.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. You got us now, Phil. Can you hear us now? I'm going to guess no. Yes, no. Yes, no. Yes, no. All right. So tell us about that.
Well, I think the more I go there, the more comfortable I get, of course.
Mm-hmm.
People are very gracious. It's a little bit different than coming here in the sense that they know when I go there, I'm going there to bring something of benefit to their people and to their community. So, of course, you're going to get a little bit different welcome than maybe when people are coming here. I think our perception is they're coming to take. So that is a different switch. But it's not easy being in a foreign land. The language is different.
Yep.
The rules are different. How to navigate different. I mean, for goodness sake, they drive on the other side of the road. So that in and of itself is different.
They do.
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
They do. So it is different. And you're trying to navigate that. And you're very grateful for the people that will step up and extend a little bit of kindness to you and make it more hospitable for you to be able to succeed or at least get where you're going.
Yeah.
So I couldn't go do what I do there if somebody wasn't hospitable to me to make it possible,
Right.
to make a difference. And we do build bridges down there. We partner together.
And that's something, I've never been out of America.
Mm-hmm.
So it's something that I have never experienced. Right. I don't, I can only imagine speaking loudly and slowly in English to try to say, where is the bathroom? Right.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, I don't know what you're
like,
saying.
I don't.
In Uganda, there's no bathroom as you know it.
Right. So when you're there, I mean, what there's so much push right now, illegally. You're there and you're in a strange land. So these are human beings, right? These are God's kids that have come and for a reason, whatever the reason may be. And it's probably not the reason that you mentioned earlier. They're not here to take our jobs. They're not here to take something, right? They're here for opportunity, hope for a better life. And a lot of times what's happening now in the America here is you're not getting a better life, right? So how as a society, how as a person, how do we take that and go, oh my gosh, I understand you broke in here. I get it. Right. Hey, Scott Giles is in. Scott, good morning. I mean, what's the answer? How do you build a bridge with somebody who comes into your house illegally?
Well, I think that there's different scenarios. Every person that comes here has a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Every person that comes here, some people, they were brought here by their parents.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them, maybe that, they came here illegally. I don't know. We've not walked in their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
We've not lived their life. We don't know the desperation that they're trying to feel or get out of, or like you said, have opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's perceptions, and those perceptions out there are causing a lot of division. So how can we approach it differently? I mean, I think we have to know the whole story. I mean, and not that we do, but I from a real estate perspective, a little snippet that I got was you have someone who came here when he was 7 years old by his parents, not legal, and trying to find him a house, and he's got no social security number.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to rent. Well, can't do background checks. That's pretty much standard in the rental
Mm-hmm.
community, can't buy because he doesn't have documented income. He's working for cash.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of challenges that I just don't think we have any idea that it's hard. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard enough. So how can we make someone's day pleasant without, and just being a helping hand, just trying to be able to be that person that will take a risk on somebody, put in a good word for somebody, try to help them to be able to succeed or to thrive instead of struggle.
Yeah. So I'm second generation American.
Mhm.
So I think that's right. Right. So my grandfather, he and his brother stowed away on a boat from Wales, came to America, to Ellis Island, back in the teens. Right. Went through everything legally.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, jumped the boat illegally. Right. To come to America for, in that time, was the American dream. Right. I don't know, as early 1900s and the teens, as I said, and I don't know what he's running from other than chasing a dream, perhaps. Through the Depression, lived in alleys behind restaurants because they threw food out.
Mhm.
I mean, this is the whole story.
Yeah.
And I have been the same person to say, listen, my grandfather came legally, you should come legally. Right. But I think where we're at, and Scott and I talked a little bit about it on the grounds, is we have stopped seeking first to understand.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah, that's where it begins.
I want you to understand me.
Mhm.
You're coming into my house.
Yeah.
You better understand me.
Right.
And instead of going, oh my gosh, you just watched your oldest child get murdered from a cartel,
hmm
and said that if you don't start doing this, we're going to murder you each week at a time. To go, oh my gosh, I won't feel that in America. To be put on, come across, fight, walk through Mexico, Central America, because a lot of it is South American people now making the trek. Or I have come from Asia, I've come from wherever, and this is the way that I couldn't get a visa, I couldn't do this, that. This is the way that I've had. I took my life savings to get to make this journey. And instead of me going, hey, Kelly, why are you coming in here illegally and not legally? And the answer simply could be, because I don't have time. This takes a year or two. I don't know. Most people like me don't understand how long it takes to come in legally.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there are just millions and millions and millions of people walking over the border every day. It's not true.
Yeah, and I don't know that we really know the truth.
Right.
That's a problem. Is I think that we're basing how we treat people on limited, distorted information. And I think first and foremost, if someone's coming to your house, and we want to use that analogy, you are the host. So a host welcomes and sits down and not only, like you said, seeks to understand.
Yeah.
We need to be better listeners, but we also, on top of being better listeners, I think we also need to believe what people tell us. You know what I'm saying? Like if I sit down and listen to somebody, if I've got these preconceived notions and opinions in my mind, I'm not really listening. And then when they tell me something, you got to believe it. I mean, I'm not saying blindly believe everything. That's not what I'm saying. But if somebody's sharing their heart with you and sharing their story, in order for you to have any amount of empathy whatsoever, at some point you got to believe. You can't have a mind that's negating everything that comes out of their mouth. That's never going to allow you to build a bridge. But what if what they're telling you is true? And how do you respond to that?
Well,
I mean, if someone's here and it's not easy, the way the laws are, it's not easy for someone to be here illegally. And it's very, very challenging to get here legally. So it's already not easy. So how can we make a situation that's not good and make it better? I mean, we're all children of God.
And that's it. However, we're being downloaded that everybody coming across is here to take our jobs, bring in drugs, our criminals, are and because of that, that's why I don't want to sit and listen to you as you've come into my house. I don't see that you're freezing and have frostbite on your toes that are covered with your shoes. Instead, you're here and you're quote unquote uninvited. Right.
Yeah, but I can say if someone did come to you with frostbite on their toes and you were that hardened in your opinion, it wouldn't be enough for you. Because when we start to seek that of what we only know partially, that's a thing.
Right.
I mean, I can only share from my perspective from the Uganda. We tried to bring someone over here from Uganda, tried to bring Mark over here, the other co-founder of Sunbeams. And, the embassy shut down. It took 2 years for it to reopen. So we waited 2 years for an appointment, provided more information than you guys could ever imagine, more than I'd have to provide for a mortgage to say that we could take him here and keep him in our home. And it was an interview of less than 3 minutes with 3 questions and a denial.
Yeah.
It's not, so there's so much more to it. And I think a lot of times people want us to focus on the illegal, where if we focus more on the legal way of how we get that better, maybe we'd have a little bit more insight. But overall, the people in your neighborhood and the people in your kids' schools and the people in your community, if we build bridges with one another, that makes your community better. No one wins by being divisive.
Right.
Nobody. I mean, a house divided won't stand. A country divided won't stand.
Mhm.
So no one wins by division. And so how do we just put aside, and I feel like we're being duped.
Yeah. So Scott, if you're still listening, I'm going to pick on Scott a little bit.
Yeah, pick on Scott.
And I do this because he's very close to me, and you know, it was, we were in the green room as he was headed off to take his beautiful wife, happy birthday, to breakfast. Because of his personality, he says, "Well, I'd research. I would say, hey, if I'm coming here, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this." And that's who he is, and I appreciate that,
Mhm.
right? However, if you're trying to protect your granddaughter, let's talk about that, Scott. If that's your granddaughter, and you have the cartel coming in or whatever the case may be, and you don't want your granddaughter to see you get shot because that's what they do to instill fear, to gain that control, you're going to be like, let's go. I'll chance it.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
The issue is, to me, is that because we don't take the time to sit next to somebody, to walk a mile in their shoes, whatever the case may be, Kelly, is, and most people feel that the immigrants coming across are from Mexico.
Mhm.
They're coming to steal our jobs. They're coming to steal our jobs. Here's an interesting set of facts, I guess. Educational attainment among U.S. immigrants. So if you're U.S. born, there's only 8% of the population with less than a high school degree. There's 28% of that that are just high school graduates. 31% have some degree from college. 33% have a bachelor's or more in America. So if you're born in America, only 33% are getting their bachelor's or more.
Wow.
Okay.
That's,
We would think it's a lot more.
yeah, we would.
If you're foreign born, okay, so if you're foreign born, 27% have less than a high school education. 22% have high school graduates. 19% have some college. 32% have a bachelor's or better. Now, here's the breakdown. Our good friends from Mexico, 54%, okay, of the immigrants, non-US born people, 54% have less than a high school education. Okay. 26% of those Mexicans are high school graduates. 13% have some college,
Mhm.
and only 7% have a bachelor's or more. Okay. So Scott says, I would do my due diligence. I would look for this, that, the third. I would make sure if I'm coming, this is what I need. You don't. Over half of the people in your family that are coming for freedom, for a better life, for whatever, are uneducated.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a lot of the other European countries, Asian countries, English is second language. So they come over and they can speak English. A lot of the people from Latin America, Mexico, nope. Right. So now what are your chances of survival? What are your chances of anything if you're not educated? And what job are you going to take from me if you're not educated? How do you go about talking to me and you don't speak English to understand what I have to do to become a legal citizen? That puts a lot into, to me, that puts a lot into focus, like, oh my gosh, 54% of those people do not have a high school education.
Yeah, that's a whole different. It's completely different.
Right.
Right. And I think, yeah, we would do our due diligence because we have the resources
Mhm.
and the technology to do our due diligence.
Yeah.
But some of these people are coming in with like 54% uneducated.
Yeah.
They don't have that. They don't have that opportunity or option to be able to do their due diligence. So again, I don't think that, I really don't think it's an either or. I don't think you have to be open the borders, let them all in. I mean, I think illegal is illegal, but there are people that are here, and how are we going to be able to love well? Because no one benefits from us not.
Right.
So what can we do about it? I think for the average person, because we focus and make our opinions based on what we think our government should do.
Yeah.
But where can we hone it down into what we can do?
Phil, can you hear us now, brother?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yay!
Welcome
There we
back.
go.
There we go.
Three
So,
different
Phil-
locations.
Yeah. Got to find that hotspot.
Yeah.
So Phil, we're talking a little bit about education, about the immigrants who are coming in, non-American born, that just, especially from Mexico, because a lot of Americans go, yeah, that's the issue at the southern border. They're all Mexican coming in, and 54% of the Mexican immigrants don't even have a high school education. How do you help people get through a legal system? Do we take the time to help people get through a legal system? Phil, you and I did a show 2 years ago now, if you remember, the Texas Marshals on horseback and whipping and lassoing human beings, right? How do I take that uneducated person to say, here's what we need to do?
Even on the education piece, I think that with us being in the top technology age or technological age like we are, I think it'd be easy to create like an app or a website or something like that to be able to teach what they're doing with Duolingo or Rosetta Stones, and they have the availability to teach the language. Why not teach the skill set? Why not be able to translate, hey, these are the skills required for this position. This is what that's going to be able to yield you as far as an annual salary. This is what the credits you'll need to be able to get into an NCC or ECC or to local community college. And I think Kelly hit it on the head. We look so far as far what the government can be doing. Why haven't we created this? We created an app for literally everything else.
Yeah.
You can have one to get someone acclimated to a just life in the States. Hey, here's the documents that you're going to need. Here's the things that they want to see. Here's, whatever steps and process that you're going to need. And if you're looking to get into this type of industry, this is what you need to, start to educate yourself on so that you can be able to communicate either your skill set or the job well to a hiring manager.
I love that.
Yeah, I love that too. I think that's great. And that's just taking it at the community level. I think we just have to shrink it down. One person, one conversation at a time, helping somebody in the grocery store if you see them, or somebody who needs help. And then, like what Phil said, in the community level, now you're making it very accessible.
And just a quick shout out to our good friends at Duolingo. I've got a 202-day streak of Spanish.
Oh, good for
There
you.
you go.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
See. And it's so growing up, and this is I always remember this story. In the 80s, you could take Latin, French, or Spanish in high school. And my dad, being a preacher, is like, Latin's a dead language. Don't take that. Right. And so my mom goes, take Spanish. You're going to want to know that around the year 2000. Right. Now, my mother, very, very forceful, 4'11" lady. Right. And I'm like, okay, yeah. And I goofed off and I did stupid things in high school and got through with a C or something. And I'll be doggone, and again, this is in Iowa, where, the closest thing we have to Spanish is, Taco John's, right? And I'm sitting in line here in the year 2000 here in the Chicagoland area going, I should have listened to my mom.
Yeah, right.
So now, and back in the 80s, there was no immersion. It was written, you were writing it and reading it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't immersion.
No.
And Duolingo does a little bit of all three, which is great. Right.
Yes.
And I agree, Phil, but then where do we draw the line as a society to say, all right, we created this app for you and keep coming over illegally. Right.
Right.
And
hate to be that guy. Okay. I feel like that's very, and I don't like to use this word because of the backlash. I feel like that's a very privileged response, because it seems like we're very critical on another culture. And even if they are trying, we haven't tried it enough to be skeptical on it yet. We haven't even given it an attempt. We've given our own lots of attempts and still do things illegally. But we're gonna go to the table already like, well, what if we make it easier for them and they still do?
Yeah,
that's not newsflash. That's not just Hispanics. That's not Latinos. That's you can tell suburban kids, the drinking age is whatever. Go to a party this weekend.
Yeah,
illegal.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I think it's either or is where we get into trouble.
So I would feel better knowing that we at least gave them an at bat to a simpler process in a way that helped minimize, because you guys have been in the area when certain programs came out here. It took us from one of the highest opioid counties in the state to drastically decrease numbers. If it takes illegal immigrancy from the high number that it is or was to a significantly lower number, I feel that would be a win versus not even giving an attempt.
But you can still be against people coming in illegally and be kind to those that have come in illegally.
Absolutely.
I think that's where I think we make, again, I keep coming back to this. We make our views and our opinions based on something that's so far out of our reach to be able to do anything about. And just because I'm kind to someone or help them or walk alongside them to help get them a house, for example, that doesn't mean that I'm okay with illegal immigration.
There's a gentleman who does a prison ministry and says you're never going to look into the eyes of a face that God doesn't love.
Yeah. Amen.
Right. And when you think about that, you're like, oh, okay. If I'm caught speeding, guess what I have to do? I have to take a driver's class here in Illinois anyway. Right. I know how to drive.
Or pay a fine, yeah, right.
Or both,
yeah.
Right? Or whatever. It's on your record, whatever the case may be. And I don't question that. I broke the law. I took a class. It's not on my record, whatever, right? You broke the law, but now let's educate, let's train, let's work with the people who have come in to say, okay, right? Now, again, as we talked about at the top of the show, a lot of the non-resident aliens, as we would call them, or people with green cards, they don't want to be citizens. They'll abide by the laws. They'll have their identification. They'll get a social security number so that they can work. They do those things because obviously somebody has taken the time to tell them this is how you do it. Right. And then every year or every 5 years or 10 years, whatever the case may be, I'm not sure, they got to go back to, Asia or wherever they're from. And when their visa is expired, and they have to go back and they got to re-register or whatever, right? There's a whole process. You've been through that.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's okay. I don't have a problem with that or that person. I've got a problem with the person who has a third grade education and is, cut guava plants for a living. And now their entire family's here and they didn't do the legal steps. But if that person did the legal steps, I don't have an issue with. Why is that?
I don't know. I just think I keep coming back down to making our communities just as one person at a time. I think that we're not seeing people as people. I think we're putting them in these camps and making judgments based on, making judgments based on an overall, and we're missing the uniqueness that each person has to offer one at a time. You don't have to, you're not compromising your values by getting to know somebody that lives here that's an illegal, or maybe they're, I mean, from the beginning, you may not even know if they're illegal or not.
Right.
They may be legal.
Right.
Right. So I think it's just bringing it back to humanity. And you've got people, like you said, you're never going to look in the eyes of somebody that God doesn't love. You're never going to look in the eyes of somebody that wasn't created by God for a purpose.
Right.
And so what's that purpose?
Yeah.
You know, to come in here and be put in a camp and treated like someone that they don't even know. They've not even taken an opportunity to get to know the person.
Right.
So I think we've got a lot of blanket statements across the board that continually divide us.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we move away from the things that we really can't do much about? And how do we make it better today? One person, one relationship at a time.
Go ahead, Phil.
I was laughing because you said cutting the guava plants, and there's a comedian who talks about, he's like, they're taking our jobs. Are you really going to tell Spencer to cut guava plants?
Right.
Are you really going to be that, career advisor? You say what you could do for $375.
Right.
It's cut. So what are we upset about?
Right.
And then there's one who's like, well, they're lazy. It's like, and then the guy goes, well, if you haven't met any of these people, it's because they're working their third job. They're some of the nicest, most hardest working people that you've ever met. He's like, so chill out. What do you mean lazy?
It's so true.
Yeah. And if you're having somebody doing your lawn, for example, and then you're turning, I mean, it's like, come on, how self-focused can we be? We just want people to be here for us. That's just craziness.
Mm-hmm.
It's craziness.
Well, and a lot of times Phil kind of tipped his hat to it a little bit too. I mean, a lot of times the people who are screaming the loudest are the ones who don't obey any of the laws.
Yeah.
I speed. I don't pay my taxes. I racketeer. I don't listen. Phil's going to come into America and take my unlawfulness. Right. When in fact I should be more concerned with technology, probably taking my job rather than someone from South Asia.
So then my question for you guys is, I'm sure that you have you ever come across either coworker or friend that you know, and then they let you know that a relative or themselves is illegal, and it did surprise you?
Yeah.
And it did surprise me.
And it surprised just because, I've had friends, I have Hispanic or Latino friends, and I might have known them for years. And like, oh yeah, well, my aunt, is legal, or my mom is, or actually I wasn't for the first X amount of time. And what I'm confused on, again, these are some of the nicest, most loving, caring people I've ever met in my life. Absolutely. I'm supposed to turn my nose up all of a sudden because you didn't get, you weren't born in the same Lubbock hospital as me. You were a little south of El Paso and I was Lubbock, so all of a sudden I'm better than you? No.
Actually, yeah. I've known a lot of children who are American citizens because they're born here in America. Mom and dad are here unauthorized, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you never see them at school board functions. You never see them at games, right? That have to do with the school because there may be somebody there who's ready to go, oh, Mr. Jones, please come with us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
And so the student, the kid, they've been to our houses. I mean, you coached those type of things, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, your mom and dad, they're not here legally, so they really, they go to work and then they go home. They go to work because they don't want to be out where they could end up getting that knock on the door, pulled over, or whatever the case may be, because they've lived here for 25 years, 30 years, perhaps.
Yeah.
And their kids are now in high school. And now what?
Well, yeah. Now what? They've lived here 25 years. Mm-hmm. This is home to them.
Right.
You're going to put them back where?
Right.
You know what I mean?
So, I lived in Michigan till I was 9. And then I lived in Iowa until I was 28, right? So there was 19 years or whatever. But I've been here for over 25 years, so I'm really an Illinois person now, right? To your point, it's like I can no longer really say I'm an Iowan because I only spent a third of my life on it.
Yeah, but what if they wanted to send you back there and said you had to go back there?
One
You wouldn't
do
feel
it.
like
Are you
home.
kidding? Everything shuts down like it's 7 o'clock in Iowa.
And I think we're ripping ourselves off because I'm telling you, getting to know people of different cultures, I am a better human being for that.
Sure.
Like, it opens your eyes to different perspectives, different gifts, different ways of looking at things. We are only hurting ourselves by being so staunch and unwilling. I don't see anything. I don't see anything negative that has come from me trying to get to know somebody from another culture. I think it's enriched me as a human being.
Yeah, I tried to be as open-minded as I possibly can, right? And Phil knows me for 15, 20 years now. And he knows that if you're decent, I love you. I don't care who you are,
Yeah.
what your background is. And if you're a criminal, I'm not going to ask if you are, right?
Yeah,
If you're a decent person, I'm going to give you my time and attention. If you're a jerk, I'll probably go, I'll pray for you and I'll walk away. But to me, I'm always just curious and intrigued by individuals and people, and I like to watch patterns and I like to watch how they do things. Phil is a couple years younger than me. I've learned a ton from this guy just watching and listening and having conversations with him, right? To the point where, now I'm uncomfortable in certain situations that I wasn't before. And I actually say something in those uncomfortable situations to let people know that I'm uncomfortable. Right. And you're just like, not now, not here, not with me around, And I think, to your point, that's looking at everybody as a human being instead of, somebody who's broken the law.
Well, yeah. And I think criminal, I mean, I go back to your comment about, if they're a criminal or whatever. What about if they were a criminal, but they've completely turned their life around? And we always like the movies with the happy endings, but we don't ever want to be a part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
But there could be some people that maybe they did some things in their past, but now they're completely transformed and new and living a new life. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think we can, I just think it's one person at a time, one relationship at a time. Everybody's got a story. None of us knows how we would behave if we had to walk in someone's shoes. And why they want to come here is probably a little bit different for each person.
But here in America, we are still about wanting to fit in with the majority. So even though I think that it's wrong, Kelly and Phil, I'm going to go along with it because I don't want to be that person.
You don't want to be what person? That's different?
Yeah. The person who says, we shouldn't.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the population here in America.
That was our golf course conversation, right? I don't want to say anything because I don't want to upset the person who made the racial joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why not? Great time to address that.
Yeah. Or, and that's, and that is, as a society, I think that's you're not going to find 3 people like us, I think, right? That will stand up and say, wait a second, right? You'll find 2 people and the other one will just go along, whether they think so or not. And that's why we are the way we are, right? I think a lot of people forget that this nation was founded on immigration.
Absolutely.
Give us your poor, give us your tired. We'll take them and we'll be one nation under God, indivisible, right?
And amazing things have come from that.
Yes. And I think a way to continue to build that bridge is we have to stop generalizing and start individualizing.
Absolutely. I think that's a problem with a lot of division.
Yeah.
Is generalizing.
Yeah. It's again, seek first to understand rather than to be understood. And there's I think a lot of the powers that be here in the United States want to keep us divisible
Absolutely.
so that, a good crisis never goes to waste.
Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is just do our own thing. One
Yeah.
relationship, one person, one situation, one app, one, community at a time, and not getting hung up on let them fight and argue. There's just let them see us doing it different. And I'm meaning them by the government and just all of the chaos that we see, but to just do it different and see what happens. What do we benefit if you look down the road long term? What do we benefit by being divided? We don't.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that we compromise our values. So that's where it gets, if you say that you want to not be divided, you're saying you're compromising your values. And that's not at all what I believe.
Yeah. So it's easy for me and you to sit here behind the microphone of the bridge, and Phil, when he comes back in, here he is. So it's easy. It's easy for all three of us to sit here and say, here's how I think we built this bridge. I can be as honest as the day is long and tell you both. I have not visited one of the shelters or one of the hotels that they've turned into in Chicago for immigration. Right. I have not gone there to volunteer. Right. So I can say, let's build a bridge all day long. And it's easy from my comfortable producer's booth here.
Sure.
But I can honestly say that I haven't done jack squat either. Right. Have you? I don't know. Have you guys?
As far as going to a refugee place, no, I haven't done any of that. Just in real estate, I do come across it. And so I try to represent and advocate the best I can.
Yeah.
And make that a good experience where people know that I'm for them, but not as far as going into.
Haven't gone to one of those, have connected people for maybe resources to become legal. Yeah. And kind of asked other friends, hey, can you talk to so-and-so because this is their current situation? Yeah, I can connect them with my cousin. Here was the process. I've done that. But no, I haven't gone to the refugee stuff.
Yeah, and I see. So that's a cool thing I'm learning about Phil as well, is all right, he's got those connections. And I say Chicago because I'm blind to the fact that there are probably a handful or a couple hundred or a couple thousand in the McHenry County area.
Harvard.
Right? So I'm blind to that fact to go, I haven't gone into Chicago. So my excuse is, well, it's not my backyard. When I get to Chicago, maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's easy for us to say that. What's the first step? What's the first step for somebody to just accept that this is a human being and not a criminal? Because a lot of them aren't criminals, right?
Right.
We have a lot of selective potential. So this is for family names. If Spencer has a troubled high school years, he still has a chance of, he's still a good kid. He just needs an opportunity. And then maybe because Kent, you and I have known each other, well, Phil was a good kid. He's kind of got in a little bit of trouble, but he's still got, potential. He just needs an opportunity. But if Miguel gets in trouble, then he's tarnished goods. We can't do that. Okay. We can't make excuses for our kids in the suburbs who are alcoholics or addicts or whatever the case may be, or have gotten in trouble in this and wore the big Echo pants and vandalized and drank and smoked in the heights. And then if it's a Hispanic kid from Carpentersville, he's washed up. We can't do that.
Yeah. And that happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look at it, my three oldest kids went to Woodstock North High School. My wife works there. So you're Spencer's. Oh, you're Ashley's, right? And now Lucy's going to McHenry High. And the first thing she runs into is the basketball coach who says, oh, you're Ashley's. Right? So there's that to Phil's, there's that name, there's that recognition, there's that legacy. And because I've never met your parents, because they've been here 25 years, perhaps unauthorized, and you did something bad. I caught you spray painting your name on a locker. That you're going straight to the Hoos Cow, right?
I mean,
Yeah. Well,
even something that I've seen. There's a kid in a school, and a vape pen falls out of his pocket.
Yeah.
If it's kid A, no big deal. He's our quarterback. If it's kid B,
Mhm.
no big deal. He's our power forward. But if it's
Uh-huh.
kid C, adios, muchachos.
I've seen that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to suspend him for a long period of time and make him do all this extra stuff. And it's like, you didn't do that for the quarterback. Why are you doing that over here?
I've seen that in a school, and the quarterback's mother was the athletic director, the assistant to the athletic director. So we look the other way.
Yeah, we do.
There was a big strike zone. We look the other way.
We do look. And it's based on what's going to serve us.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
That quarterback's going to serve us, so we'll look the other way.
Correct.
But that is what it comes down to. I think we can never, as human beings, underestimate the power of believing in somebody, and how taking a risk and believing in somebody
Mm-hmm.
could absolutely change not just their life, but generations.
Well, and in the research that I did for this show, the number one, we might have said it at the beginning, I don't know if it was the green room or at the beginning, the number one nationality that is an immigrant in the United States is not Mexican,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's Asian and South Asian. But I would look at those people and go, oh, you came across, right? And if we go back to that education piece, in Asian, 10% of the immigrants coming in from Asia, 10% have less than a high school education. 9% are high school graduates. 10% have some college. 71% have a bachelor's degree or more. Okay. So here's what's happening. We're worried about a border. We're worried about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the people who are operating on you, the people who are engineering your car, the people who are master's degree and beyond come in on a student visa, perhaps.
Sure.
Get their master's, get their doctorate, and are here now as an immigrant, right? Either non-resident or unauthorized. And I'm worried about the Gonzalez family who has a third grade education. Again, what are we being told? What story are we being told?
Yeah. So you're saying that the person who operates on me is unauthorized?
There could be.
How did they get a job if
I
they're
don't know.
unauthorized?
I don't know.
That's interesting.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah,
It makes
it's interesting.
for doing my research, it made me look at the issue totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally different.
So the guy who makes in one day what this guy makes in 3 weeks, we don't worry about his job. We're worried about the guava plant.
Yes. Yes.
Just making sure I'm keeping up with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
Yeah, that is mind blowing.
Right?
That is mind blowing. Because that opens up a whole nother thing. Like if you're unauthorized, how are you getting paid? How you have a malpractice insurance? I mean, I'm going down a whole different rabbit trail now.
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
Right.
something to think about, right?
71%.
71%.
At med school, who are your classmates? You're connecting with the people who know how to do the paperwork to get it so it's still done, taken care of.
Yeah.
When Miguel gets here, I don't know if that's his peers necessarily to be able to set that up. But in med school, you're meeting some people who would know how to write that literature.
Yeah.
To get it done.
Yeah. You're getting your doctorate there. Yeah.
And and we're talking about bridges and how do you build bridges? I just think, do you come up into a relationship or meet somebody for the first time and give them your whole backstory? Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like we're trying to have so much
It's like
understanding of
Yeah.
where you came from. Is
Yeah.
it right? Is it wrong? I mean, I'm just saying, you ask, how do we start? Just lay your opinions down and just be kind.
Yeah.
Just have conversations with people, get to know people, hear their story, share your story. I mean, we're all here together.
Yeah.
We're not going anywhere. Well, maybe,
Well,
but
but it's years and years and years and years of programming, right? Um, again, my dad's first generation. I mean, he was the first, kid born in America from his parents. So I guess that's second generation, right? So I wouldn't be here, perhaps, if my grandfather didn't stow away on a boat and come in and wait on Ellis Island for all those days or however long it took to get through, that process. He had to do something illegal to get here for a better life, right? An amazing man. Went on to own 3 grocery stores in Lansing, Michigan area. I mean, just an amazing story, right? But again, I would rather take what I learn on social media, what I learn from the news, from snippets, what I learned from my crotchety old neighbor next door, and say that's the way that it is, and stay closed-minded instead of going, oh, Phil's a good guy. I had no idea that you fought through 6 weeks of hiking through Mexico and avoiding sharks and bats and snakes to get here to America. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, I think they win when we allow ourselves and our opinions to depersonalize. And that's what we've done. I think wherever there's a broken bridge, there's no real, we've depersonalized people.
Yeah, hugely.
And I love that, Kent, with your story, like, my grandfather came over here illegally. No one's going to look at you as like, oh, that's Kent with the illegal grandfather.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But sometimes we'll do that for others. Right. Versus like, well, you're amazing people. And I'm glad that I've known you for the 15 years of my life, Kent. Is there anything I could do for your grandfather? Is there anything I can do for your parents to help, make it so that, because you got to think about it. If you move here as a new person, everyone's asking all these questions. Even if I want to open up to a Kelly, I don't know if Kelly's going to tell that my dad's illegal.
Right.
That's a different type of fear. Like where you're sitting there and you're at your first sleepover in the burbs and they're asking questions and I can't tell you because I don't know if you'll call those people on me. Right. And so we just got to position ourselves where it's like, all right, it's not wrong or they're not tarnished goods if, that's how their family did come over. And then be able to be in a position where, okay, how do we get, what resources do you need? Who do I need to make a connection with? That way you and your family don't have to live in fear no more.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to that education, right? I learned a lot preparing for this show just because, I was like, oh, everybody's coming from Mexico.
Yeah.
Nope. Nope, not at all. And so you're kind of like, oh, and when you take a look at it, new immigrants to America, Asians outnumber Hispanics, right?
Yeah, I think that's a stat that most people aren't aware of.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, that's surprising.
I would not have noted. Now, on the other side of things, it's like, oh, but they're bringing in drugs. They're bringing in, they're warlords. There's all these bad people that are coming in, right? And but that's not necessarily the case either.
Well, I don't. I think that there's bad people in America too.
Yeah.
I mean, you look. There's a lot of. I don't know if you saw the Sound of Freedom movie, but the United States is #1 for slave trafficking. I don't know that we can be pointing fingers at anybody else being criminal and horrible when we got that going on. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
So I think to constantly be them, I think you got to clean your own house first when it comes to some of that.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of horrific things going on here. It's always a mystery to me why the border's open and the embassies are so closed. I think that's the question I wish more people would ask. Why is it so hard to get here legally, but yet we have open borders and letting people come illegally? That doesn't make absolutely any sense whatsoever. unless somebody's benefiting from that being open. And I just don't know that it's the aliens.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think we have to ask the bigger question.
Nailed it.
Follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so I think, pulling away from here on the bridge to build that bridge is to start looking into things for yourself. Right? My eyes were opened.
Yeah.
Right. 71% of Asians have masters or bachelors are better. Bachelors are better. Excuse me. These are the people who are.
They're more apt to take your jobs.
They're more apt to be your boss.
Yeah.
Right. These are the people who are highly skilled, highly educated, and yet I'm worried about Mr. Gonzalez coming in and bussing tables.
But we'd also complain if there was no one there to bust the table.
That's correct. And I won't do it because it's beneath me. Anyway. Listen, I absolutely love this conversation. I love that we've kind of come to an idea to understand that particular place where we need to bridge, right? And I love it. And I think we can definitely move in the right direction going forward. But yeah, so kind of a neat, Kelly. It's awesome having you here. I would love love your ideas, love your point of view on things. And hopefully our listeners do too. And it's great. And Phil, we'll get Phil back in here.
Yeah, I got to take care of the family at the situation, but then I will be back. And Kelly, I owe you. I apologize. I love both of you so much.
Yeah.
That's all right. Thanks so much for having me. This is great.
So our next show is this.
Ooh.
Write the check or hand deliver the cash.
Oh, that's going to be good.
Looking for more dirty hands, right? So in other words, as we're building this bridge, are you comfortable just saying, I gave it the office?
Ooh.
Or are you going to hand deliver the cash?
I like
right?
it. I'm looking
I
forward
like
to that
it.
one.
That'll be good.
That'll
be good.
All right. For all of us here at 216 Net, thank you for getting stuck in the net. Remember that if you are looking for a great cause, right? If you are looking for something to get involved with, our good friends over at, here it is, Sunbeams Uganda, right?
Yeah.
Always looking for people who have a heart and a passion to just help human beings. You just got back, which is great. We'll talk about that. But Sunbeams is an incredible organization, transforming lives through the love of Christ. And there's just some great stuff. Check them out at sunbeamsuganda.org. Right.
Thanks.
And then come back in about a half hour for Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Another great show coming up. And enjoy the Friday, folks. But thanks for tuning in.
Thanks so much, Ken. Thanks, Phil.